Michael Lorenzen and Rodolfo Castro, they're such big names. I have to look at their names to say them because I don't know who they are. Yeah, that's what Dave Dombrowski did yesterday. Yeah, today's gonna be a baseball day. We do have Eagles on the agenda too. Haason Reddick made some comments yesterday about his contract, Eagles culture. We're going to talk about that a little bit as well. But we got Tommy Orme joining me from Philadelphia Sports Network to talk about the Phillies Major League Baseball trade deadline, the lackluster effort and all. But it is what it is. The Phillies still won last night. We got a little bit of baseball today, guys. Get used to it. Trending in the AM starts in 30 seconds. And a very good morning, everybody, and welcome to Trending in the AM. Right here on Philadelphia Sports Network, we are live. Facebook, YouTube, X. Can't say Twitter anymore, it's X. Live everywhere on social media, so like, share, retweet, follow. You know the drill. Tell a friend, tell everybody to come on in and get interactive with the best morning show in the Philadelphia area, the only show where your opinions actually matter. We got lots on the agenda today. We got guests on the agenda today. We got it all today. So make sure you get on in. I am Phil Stiefel, your host. Phillies, very mid at the trade deadline. There you go. Man, chatter, that's for you. Very mid at the deadline. So we're going to talk about it with Tommy Orme, Philadelphia Sports Network. We're going to talk a little bit about how the Phillies continually win, like last night, when all signs point to losses. And then I want to talk in the second half of the show. We'll get back into the Philadelphia Eagles and training camp and stuff like that. Haason Reddick and his contract and how he's being so, is the right word, polite about it? We're going to talk about that as well. That is correct, Kyle. Ring that bell. Another big win for the Phillies last night. Was fantastic to see. Again, last night, another night when all signs pointed to a loss. And here we go, ninth inning. Bryce Harper, huge double. Nick Castellanos, winning home run after he couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. I like that the Phillies held on to Rojas. We can dive right into that. Because Dave Dombrowski, Kyle, did not make many moves yesterday. He made two moves. He traded for starter / reliever / journeyman pitcher Michael Lorenzen. Everyone's calling him the next Cy Young winner here. I mean, people acting like this guy is something special. Rodolfo Castro, a journeyman infield utility guy. I mean, nothing special there as well. And Dave Dombrowski spoke, and he did speak a little bit about Rojas, McGreary, Abel, and how people and teams wanted those prospects, and he did not feel like he wanted to move those guys. And why? I mean, you like Rojas, you like him, you think he's got potential. You know, what did Dave Dombrowski say? I wrote notes down here. Where are my notes on him? Rojas has star potential, is what Dave Dombrowski said. And does he? I mean, he's nice. He's young. We're trying to win a World Series. We were in the World Series last year. This team is as inconsistent as possible. Law of average say all these games that they win, that they feel like they should lose, eventually is going to catch up with the Philadelphia Phillies. That's a problem, that you keep relying on the PH, the fighting Phils, to make a comeback at the end of a game all the time. That's a problem. Now, maybe if you want to make the argument, and it's one that I do agree with to an extent, that you don't want to trade your prospects because you've got a $300 million roster. You got Trey Turner hitting below 245. What's he, 240 now? Under 300 on base percentage. Nick Castellanos struggling since the All-Star break. You want to say Aaron Nola's got to be better. You want to say Bryce Harper's power's got to return. Kyle Schwarber's got to get his average to 200. JT's got to be better. You want to say all those things, and that's why I'm not trading prospects, because I've already built a winning team. They just are underperforming. That's fine. And if Dave Dombrowski would have came out yesterday after the deadline and not made any move, But said that, I would have respected Dave Dombrowski more. I'm hearing a possible 6-man rotation to save the arms. Yeah, I mean, that really doesn't, I don't know. 6-man rotation, like, I suggested it before the season started that the Phillies should do that. But whatever. This Michael Lorenzen guy, and we're going to get into these guys more specifically when Tommy Orme joins us here in a few minutes. These guys don't excite me. These guys don't do anything special for me. Doing a 6-man rotation, what's that really going to do? I mean, yeah, you're gonna save Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola for the playoffs a little bit more. Taijuan Walker, but what are they? You know, Taijuan Walker leads the majors or the National League or majors in wins with 12 wins now. Goes to show how meaningless the win stat is for a starting pitcher anymore. Like, we've got a very mid-level pitching staff, performance-wise. You know, Ranger Suarez had a gutsy performance last night, even though he didn't have his decent stuff. Gave up 10 hits last night, 12 base runners in 6 1/3 innings. He only gave up 1 run somehow, but again, another sign that the Phillies should have lost that game last night, but somehow got out of it. I saw something about Aaron Nola, and it's an older stat. It's from a couple weeks ago about the amount of home runs Aaron Nola gives up, but yet his whip is like one of the best in baseball. Like, Aaron Nola, like, where is he? Like, what is he? What's going to happen the rest of the year? Like, Michael Lorenzen isn't a world beater. People are talking like I made a tweet and offended a lot of people because I tweeted out Phillies trade for a pitcher I've never heard of, and they gave away a player that I just heard of that morning for the first time. Lung Lee or whatever his name is. He's like their 4th or 5th best hitting prospect, the Phillies. But he's a second baseman or a shortstop, and obviously he won't be getting to the big club anytime soon. But if he is a rising prospect, a guy that a lot of teams were interested in, is Michael Lorenzen really the guy you want to trade for and give up that prospect for? The guy was an all-star. Everyone's like, oh, how do you not know who he is? He was an all-star this year. Let's be honest, guys. Michael Lorenzen was an all-star because of the dumb baseball rule that one player from every team has to make the all-star game. Detroit had to have a representative, and Michael Lorenzen's the best of a bad team. Yeah, he's having a good season. There's no doubt. I'm not knocking the season he's having. But this guy ain't a young kid or a first-timer. He's been in baseball. He's been in the majors since 2015. He's had just as many 5 ERA seasons as sub-4 ERA seasons. Kind of funny because I kind of used to say the same exact thing about Kyle Gibson. I just don't get why so many people are hyped about this move when realistically all it's doing is adding a 6-man to the rotation. It's not making the rotation any better. It's eating innings maybe for some guys so that they can get some rest and some breaks. You know, you want to go 6-man rotation. I talked about it before the season, giving, Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola each a 2-week break, month or two before the playoffs. So almost like load management for them. Maybe you do that instead of a 6-man rotation. Put Zach Wheeler on the DL or the IL for 2 weeks just to give him a break. Put Aaron Nola on the IL for 2 weeks just to give him a break. I know they're not going to do that, but you could do that. That's all that this move's doing. And people are saying because he's an all-star, he's this great guy that's going to make a major difference for the Phillies. He's not. I'm looking at his stats here. Like, he's got a 3.58 ERA, but he's also only given up runs once in the month of July. He gave up 3 runs on the 27th, but his previous 4 or 5 starts were all 0 runs. So he is a guy that's pitching better. And we got our guest joining us here on the I have no blah 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 on the I have no sponsor hotline. We got Tommy, and I'm going to say this because I didn't check before the show. Is it Orme or Orme?
You actually got it. Most people don't. It's Orme. Yeah.
Orme. Tommy Orme, Philadelphia Sports Network lead betting writer, Phillies writer, pretty much a Philadelphia sports fan through and through. Good morning, Tommy. How you doing?
Morning. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. So obviously we were both super excited with how the trade deadline went for the Phillies yesterday, and a lot of people got upset by my tweet right after the first trade happened. Phillies traded for a guy I've never heard of, for a prospect that I had only heard of that day for the first time. And I'm not a Phillies fan. I'm not this and that. People are acting like Michael Lorenzen is this stud pitcher because he made the All-Star game this year. And my opinion is simply he made the All-Star game because somebody had to from Detroit. And he is having a very good season. And he will provide some rotation depth. But he's not going to change the outcome of this season for the Phillies, right?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, the first thing you see on Twitter when any of these trades are made, you realize that everyone online's been watching every single game in the farm system. Like, I mean, like, no one knows who these guys are. You watch the list and maybe you see a YouTube clip and a shout out from T-Mac every once in a while, but I mean, come on, like, he's a prospect, you know, like. It's really a flip of the coin with all these guys, which always makes me think back to a guy like Kyle Drabeck, who was untouchable, couldn't miss, and then what happened in his career. But to your earlier question, I don't think this moves the needle very much. He has had we can do the negative or the positive because I do have a positive spin for you, but this is a long man. This is a long man without much of a proven track record through his career, especially later in the season. And it almost feels like the Phillies kind of missed out on their guys. Mm-hmm. So that's.
I mean, you look at that. You look at the Rodolfo Castro, which that move's even more boggling to me because it's not like you get rid of Josh Harrison, you put Castro in there. Not much difference there. I mean, it's not like that's changing things. It wasn't more a case of Dombrowski, and I said this at the opening of the show. I wish he would have just said this, that Dave Dombrowski didn't want to make any major moves because he's already built what on paper should be a winning team. They're just not performing.
Yeah.
It's just more of a statement to his team being like, look, you guys got to step it up. I mean, Trey Turner's got to be better. Kyle Schwarber's got to be better. Aaron Nola's got to be better. Right down the board, everybody's got to be better. And if they're even 2 or 3 of these guys get better, then we're not worried about what this trade deadline is.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. I mean, Dombrowski's been awfully quiet. I know the one thing I'd seen is Johan Rojas was relatively untouchable, which you could have gone out and gotten a guy like White Sox's Dylan Cease or I don't know, like I think the complexion of this trade deadline changed when the Cubs became buyers and not sellers. Somebody like Bellinger, somebody like Marcus Stroman. There could have been some bigger pieces that they brought in, but you're absolutely right. Of course, we're coming off like a really, really exciting game where Nick Castellanos hits a 2-run home run to kind of hopefully break out of his slump. But you really are betting on your guys here to kind of turn it around. And Aaron Nola, just a quick note on him, he's allowed 24 home runs this season. The most he's ever allowed in a season is 27. So when that's your guy and the pitching depth you add is somebody like Michael Lorenzen, who has 16 career starts after the month of July in his career. You're really betting on these guys to get it back on track.
Yeah, I mean, so I know a lot of people are talking about the 6-man rotation. Kyle brought it up in the comments a few minutes ago, a 6-man rotation possibly to protect these arms. I talked about before the season started, not a 6-man rotation, but more, to kind of use a Sixers term, load management, kind of load manage these arms where you skip a couple spots on the rotation for some of these guys. How do you feel about that 6-man rotation or protecting some of these guys? Because again, you bring up Nola's home runs and Nola is such a enigma to me because he's got all these home runs, but he's got a 1.12 whip. He struck out 139 batters. Outside of the home run problem, he's having a pretty solid season. It's just he can't control that home run problem. It's even bigger than it's ever been for him. So maybe we protect him a little bit more. Where do you feel Lorenzen will fit in this rotation? How will he be used in this rotation?
Yeah, so it all remains to be seen. He is coming off of July in which he had a 1.14 ERA, which is fantastic. He hasn't allowed. He's allowed 3 earned runs since the month of June. That's pretty incredible. My typical stance on a 6-man rotation is you end up having a 6-man rotation when you don't have 5 pitchers. I think this is something where you're really looking ahead to the divisional round of the playoffs, and you're saying, okay, now we have a guy that we can slot in for 3 or 4 innings after we've gotten everything we can get out of Nola and Wheeler. And so, like, really, like, it's I guess that's what's underwhelming about all of this is they sort of just made some depth moves, and really in a trade deadline where you didn't see a ton of big action outside of what the New York Mets was doing. It's disappointing to see the Phillies with a couple of great pieces in their farm right now, and Johan Rojas, who's now got a couple good weeks in the majors, that they didn't go out and really try to get somebody who, like you said, was truly going to move the needle in the regular season. This is a postseason play, but you haven't made the postseason.
Right. Sorry, talking 215, Jake, Guy. We don't go live at 8:30 anymore. It's 8:15 now. The people want more trending in the AM, so we're giving them more trending in the AM on a daily basis. I wish the deadline was underwhelming. I would take underwhelming over whatever this garbage was. Now, I don't know if it was garbage per se. Now, it wasn't what we wanted. And, I was going to talk prospects, but you brought up what the Mets did. There was actually, it felt like, a very active trade deadline amongst a lot of teams. Probably it wasn't the big names. Once the Angels pulled Ohtani off the table, for sure, like that was the big name. There weren't a lot of, I know Verlander got traded and Scherzer got traded, but the flashy names really weren't on the move this year. What do you think any of these guys that went to other teams that the Phillies should have been targeting? You obviously mentioned Cease already. Bellinger got taken off the table as well. Would you have liked to see the Phillies make a more aggressive play for some of these names?
Yeah, I mean, one name, because I really did think, and a lot of people thought they were going to go after some sort of right-handed outfield bat. Some names that were floating around were like Adam Duvall, Bellinger early on, even Teoscar Hernandez in the past few days, who's not having a great season, but still it's a lot of power that you can get with him. One name though, and I'm surprised that as a team they were quieter at the deadline, as the Washington Nationals. Their young stud Lane Thomas. You saw them ship off Candelario to Chicago, and that was kind of their move. But I thought the Phillies could have made a nice play for somebody like Thomas, who would have had a couple years of control. He would have been expensive, but that would have been the kind of name that Phillies fans could truly get behind.
So the Phillies, you heard Dave Dombrowski talk. Rojas, he said, has star potential, and a lot of teams were calling for Abel, McGreary, and stuff like that. You brought up Kyle Drabek before and how he was, untouchable. Don Brown was untouchable too, and we see how his career lasted in Philly too. I'm in the belief, and I'm in the camp that prospects are just that. They're prospects. There is no such thing. Before Andrew Painter went down, in the right trade, not for anybody, but in the right trade, even Andrew Painter was on the table for me. Do you think, this Phillies team, they're not in the playoffs yet. There is no guarantee at this point. They're playing inconsistent baseball. That Dave Dombrowski, his whole reputation is trading prospects for stars that, in Detroit. He literally traded, my buddy Jason, who lives in Detroit, always tells me about when they traded prospects for Miguel Cabrera, and everybody was up in arms, and look how that turned out for them. And he's not doing that anymore, or at least he hasn't really done that in his last few years. Do you think he's overvaluing these prospects? And, could he have been more aggressive and tried to move some of these guys? Because there is a window. And Tommy, I always talk about on this show with all the major sports teams, when your window is open, you have to capitalize on it. There is a window for the Phillies. It's the Phillies, the Braves. There are some other good teams, but I really think the Phillies are right there if they would have been a more aggressive team at the deadline.
Yeah, and you mentioned a couple of names there. Nothing makes me more nervous than a pitching prospect. Because they're one tweak away from having their career implode, and that's not something that we're wishing on anyone. But
Andrew Painter, Tommy John surgery, we don't know what he's going to be like now.
That's the big thing. Like I do think that's just kind of GM talk for we missed out on or the asking price was too high for the guy we really wanted. But I again, trade deadline is passed, but we've seen a couple of, I would say, significant names be DFA'd at the end of yesterday. Gene Segura, I don't think he makes a ton of sense, but he's out there, and I know Philly fans would love it.
I think if they didn't make the move for Castro, Gene Segura would have made sense, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
There would have been room for him right there.
Yeah, now it's a little crowded, but
Yeah.
the other name that really jumped out to me that I had kind of hoped the Phillies would target, which did surprise a lot of people, but the Cubs DFA'd Trey Mancini. So he's kind of floating out there after signing. I mean, not for nothing. He signed a 2-year, $14 million contract with the Cubs, and he only made it half a season. So when you're talking about somebody who could slide in at first, play a little outfield, he's a name that's interesting that they could maybe scoop up for relatively cheap.
Talk about, and Gary here with, I'm good with Lorenzen, but we need another bat. And this goes to that Mancini thing. This team is severely underachieving. Gary, we're going to touch on that in a second. Let's hope they make the playoffs and show up like they did last year. Mancini, I mean, we just said the Cubs, I mean, just miraculously are back in the playoff race. If they're DFAing someone like Mancini, doesn't that say maybe something about him? Is he really, are we really going to get anybody? Would he really make that much of a difference? Because then the Phillies will have to cut somebody from their 40-man roster anyway to go make a move like that.
Are you so in love with Jake Cave that Trey Mancini doesn't make sense?
Jake Cave, everybody's bashing Jake Cave and saying while he was in the minors, everyone's like, why isn't this guy back up on the big squad? Because of how he was tearing up AAA after we demoted him. So, whatever. If you're worried about your fifth outfielder or your sixth outfielder, you got a problem. And that goes to Gary's comment here about this team underachieving. And something I talk about, we talk Phillies. I told you on, in private message, I'm like, dude, all these people are in here commenting about Eagles in the comment section because nobody wants to talk Phillies anymore. But whenever I do talk Phillies, I talk about this team that they're underachieving, that they always seem like they do everything on paper says they should lose and they should be bad. But then they magically, the fighting Phils find a way. Last night, everything said last night was a loss. They find a way to do it. Is there a magic formula to get this team to stop underachieving?
I think for one, and they did this last year, I think with success, with moving Schwarber out of the leadoff spot until he can kind of get his rhythm back. And then they bumped him back up, when he kind of got his swing going. And it's funny that all the focus has been on Trey Turner and him dropping so low in the lineup. Castellanos hasn't had a good couple weeks. Harper, like you said right before I joined, where's the power? Did he come back a little too early? And then Schwarber, I don't know, put him at 7 for a couple of days and move Trey Turner up to that one hole, or even, hey, guess what? Johan Rojas, this star that we have, why don't you throw him in the leadoff spot? I think they're at a point now where they are kind of finding ways to win these games. Let's have a little fun with the lineup.
The lineup is such a sensitive subject among so many fans because we all crush Rob Thompson for it, and and how he keeps leaving people in positions that they shouldn't be in. And I didn't fact check this, I did not, but somebody did tell me on Twitter, and because I asked this question, and no player in the history of baseball, according to one person, again, didn't fact check this, ever hit 40 or more home runs and had an under 200 batting average for the season. And we might get that. I mean, he is still under one. I think he was under 185 after last night. Yeah. I mean, can you just imagine your leadoff hitter? I know batting average isn't what it used to be in importance level, but having a leadoff hitter hitting under 200, could you imagine? I mean, you look like a youngin', but back in the day in the early 90s, we would have been crushing Jim Fregosi or Nick Leyva for doing something like that.
Yeah, I mean,
this one right here. Can Kyle Schwarber get a day off eventually, Yeah.
Well, so here's the thing with Schwarber, too. Yes, he's hitting under 200, but he does seem over the last week or so to be seeing the ball really well. So, he is drawing these walks. It's not sexy. It's not exciting, but that is what you saw spark last night, that leadoff walk. And then Harper comes in, doubles, and then Castellanos hits that. It makes it a little sweeter that it's off David Robertson right after they acquire him. Where everyone's talking, including myself, everyone's talking about how fantastic of a trade deadline the Marlins have, and then Castellanos comes in there and just kills a hanger. So I'm aligned with that. I think give the big guy a day off.
Everybody always says that whenever I complain that Bryson Stott's not in the starting lineup, Well, he needs a day. Everybody needs a day off. Yet Kyle Schwarber every single day is in that. And you say he walks and does this and that. I mean, he's only got a 325 on base percentage. It's not even like he's getting on base at that excessive of a clip. You say Rojas in the leadoff spot, and Talking 215 says, his lineup sucked 95% of the time, and I don't disagree with you, Talking 215. Bryson Stott is a leadoff hitter in my mind. Yeah. I think he could be it. I think he should be it. And I think Rob Thompson's severely hampering this team by not putting what, in my mind, is clear as day in front of him, putting Bryson Stott in that leadoff spot and just leaving him there for the rest of the year.
I wouldn't mind seeing him there, honestly. I like the concern, obviously, with him has been the splits versus righties and lefties. But, I mean, again, we're at a point where are you more comfortable rolling the dice on somebody like Bryson Stott with the speed that he has? And between him and Trey Turner, the amount of stolen bases. And not only that, Turner's been perfect, and I think Stott's been caught twice. Throw him up there versus your, how many more solo home runs do we need to see from Kyle Schwarber before to lead off a game before we're like, 1-0 isn't going to do it. But yeah, why not? We're in August. Let's mix it up. It's time to start playing with playoff lineups.
What is it with, last year it was Nick Castellanos, and I know Nick Castellanos has struggled in July since the All-Star break, but overall, as Gary says here, Castellanos did carry this team in the first half of this season for sure. Help carry this team. Castellanos struggled last year. Now Trey Turner this year, first year in Philly, big deal. Is there really something to it that the pressure of getting a big deal and coming to Philly is hard to adjust to? Because, if you would have told me Nick Castellanos was going to struggle last year, I would have semi-believed you and been like, all right, maybe. But there's no way, shape, or form that we could foresee this season coming from Trey Turner.
Yeah, so for context, I am a diehard Philadelphia fan. My father is from Philadelphia. I am from Washington, D.C.
Okay.
That is to say, you all in Philadelphia do not realize how intimidating you are as fans. Being right there in the center of that, even as a friendly coming in town, I'm like, oh my God, we better keep our heads down a little bit. So I do think there is something to be said for signing this big deal and coming into one of the most intense fan cities, I think, in the U.S. And I've lived in New York, whatever. Like, they got nothing on any Philly fans.
Sorry, I'm running through some of these comments here about Schwarber. Schwarber batting first has cost us a lot of runs. All those leadoff home runs could be 2 or 3. I totally agree with you there. Yeah. And then there was one up here before about Bryce Harper. I can't find it now, but his power that people, do you think Bryce Harper's power will come back? And the comment was that, it's going to take a while for that to come back, and it might not come back this year. Can the Phillies team make a similar run to last year if Bryce Harper isn't old Bryce Harper?
Yeah, hopefully we start to see him. Like, hopefully last night was sort of a catalyst to some of this stuff. Right. Even if it's just doubles power right now. This guy had Tommy John surgery, and I know we think of that as this crazy injury for pitchers to come back from, and Bryce Harper was just kind of like, I'm just going to come back faster than anyone has ever come back from this injury and be exactly what I've been my entire career. He might need a little more time. But yeah, no doubt they're going to need him down the stretch and in the playoffs to truly return to the power and form that we've seen over the past few years.
Yeah. And again, you had mentioned the lefties and the splits with Stott. Yeah. The statistician is reminding me. He does have a 307 batting average against lefties. He actually hits lefties better than righties. It's a bigger sample size against righties than lefties because Rob Thompson won't give him the opportunity to regularly do it, which boggles my mind, which gets to the Rob Thompson thing. I'm called a Rob Thompson hater, Tommy. I don't know if you've ever seen that on social media. People think I don't dislike Rob Thompson. I just think there's a reason why he's been in baseball for 30, 40, 500 years and never been a manager. He's not the guy that goes into the big chair. He just doesn't. I know he earned the right by getting to the World Series last year. He makes so many baffling moves. I'm a believer in the law of averages. Everything ends up even Steven. His baffling moves have to catch up to him sometime. And would you be surprised if some of these moves that he makes, whether it's with the bullpen, the lineup, end up being the reason why something happens, we don't make the playoffs, or we're a quick exit this year versus the deep run last year. Where are you with Rob Thomson, the manager of the Phillies?
Yeah, so I think this is like the hot girlfriend thing. Joe Girardi was so bad last year that by the time Thompson came in, it was just nice. It was nice to have the new girl hanging around, right?
I love this.
And now it's been over 100 days, and the cracks are starting to show a little bit. But I like to what you're talking about, the Christopher Sanchez, again, we didn't know that he was having a tummy ache or whatever when he got pulled the other day. But
I love how you say he had a tummy ache, like we're in kindergarten here and you got to go see the nurse or something like that. You're a grown freaking athlete playing professional baseball. If you got a tummy ache, suck it up and pitch,
That's what I'm saying. And
you got a no-hitter going.
Like I'm holding my breath, and all of a sudden Sir Anthony Dominguez comes in. I'm like, what the hell could this be about? And again, you find out stuff after the game, but just the way that these starting pitchers are being managed seems very funny to me. Like, I'd like to see all these guys go a little bit deeper into these games. Like, why can't they? Like, especially if we now have a 6-man rotation.
Marshawn's saying you using the rebound. Rob Thompson's a rebound girl. I don't know where this came from. That these are some great analogies right there. But I mean, Rob Thomson was a guy that almost retired before last season. Right. Like, that's where he was. And they only gave him a 2-year extension. It's not like they gave him this 4 or 5 year deal. So this could be his last year, hypothetically speaking. Do you have confidence in Rob Thomson as we go forward here?
I still do. I think they'll figure it out. Some of this stuff is like, it's just like you have guys, especially in the bullpen, like Sir Anthony Dominguez was supposed to be better. Greg Soto was
fantastic last night in the 9th inning. FYI,
he was.
That was a very encouraging sign last night's 9th inning from. See, I can be positive about the.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm not all negative and doom and gloom. Sir Anthony Dominguez looked great in the 9th inning last night.
Yeah, he did, and it doesn't seem like the Greg Soto acquisition has worked out the way they wanted. Like, I mean, that guy comes in and he's like, let me just see how hard I can throw it. He threw behind a batter last night. It was out of control. But they've gotten one of the better seasons out of Craig Kimbrell in the past few seasons. So it's just going to be little things like that with the bullpen, hopefully cementing themselves and pitching a little bit better. But this all goes to the same point where you require a guy like Michael Lorenzen to be your 6th starter and potentially a long man out of the bullpen. But that's, there were guys out there. Paul Sewald, he went to Arizona. Again, you got to pay more for him, but like there were pieces out there that you could have gone and got. And nothing against Jeff Hoffman. He's had a fantastic season, but would you rather have another closer caliber pitcher down the stretch or somebody like a Hoffman? That's
absolutely agree. When you're talking about, the window, and the window's there, to get back to the World Series, maybe win a World Series, you want guys that you could trust. Like, I'm not saying the Phillies had to go out and overpay for Justin Verlander or Max Scherzer, which what the Mets were doing, I have no idea. The amount of money that they are eating, I mean, it must be nice to be rich. You know what I mean? I mean, it's insane. But would you rather have overpaid for the flashy name like a Verlander that what he is capable of in the playoffs, or Michael Lorenzen? Like, there's a difference between we're looking at the playoffs. The odds are we're still going to make the playoffs. It's what are we going to do when we get to the playoffs? And Lorenzen, Hoffman, there's a lot of guys I don't have confidence or faith in once we get to the big stage.
Yeah,
we don't need Bailey Falter going out there, which obviously we traded him, but last year in the playoffs, he obviously was overmatched come playoff time, and he had some really bad outings in the playoffs last year. Like, I want for sure things in that playoff because you never know when you're going to get back.
Yeah, and I think that's something we're going to figure out with Lorenzen really quick. The guy's 7 innings pitched away from hitting his career highest.
His rookie year, like 10 years ago,
So yeah, he didn't get any younger. But
I hear he's jacked and he's got really big arms. So I hear he can hit some home runs in batting practice.
Yeah. He's got 7 career home runs. That's crazy. That'd be nice if batters still hit, or pitchers still hit.
I guess you can use them as a pinch hitter. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Is
he a righty or a lefty hitter? Does he hit right or left?
He's a righty.
Oh, so we needed a right-handed power bat off the bench. So
I go.
Hypothetically, we got that as well.
Yeah. I mean, God, if this is like Phillies Moneyball, then we're all along for the ride with these cheap incremental upgrades.
Yeah, I mean, it really does. I think that's a perfect way to say it. And some in the trade deadline, cheap incremental upgrades is all it is. But that being said, like we said earlier, this team does have a $300 million payroll. They do have a lot of talented players. Who do you think is the most important one of these guys to turn it around? Is it Trey Turner? Is it Kyle Schwarber? Is it Aaron Nola? Who do you think is the most important one that the Phillies need to get right that will help carry them not just to October, but through October?
Honestly, I'm going to throw you a bit of a curveball, but I think it's JT Realmuto.
Okay, I think that's a fair statement.
The presence that he has had in the middle of that lineup over the past couple of years has been super understated, but just knowing that you have a catcher who, from a fielding perspective, isn't going to let anybody steal and who will just hit 280 for you, like those are huge. I don't have any doubts in my mind that Turner's going to turn it around or that Harper's power is going to suddenly reappear in October. So for me, it's Realmuto right now.
I mean, JT Realmuto has had a very, very non-JT Realmuto like season this year. So, and I kind of feel like some of his hitting issues have kind of reflected at behind the plate. I mean, he's still one of the best defensive catchers, but he's made more mistakes than normal. His game calling hasn't been perfect this year. I think sometimes sometimes bad defense affects your offense. Well, sometimes the offense can affect how you play, on the defensive side of things. And I think that's very fair right there.
Yeah, I think it might have been last night. He spiked one right into the mound.
No, he didn't play last night because of the
blizzard. 3 nights ago.
Last night they pulled him 2 minutes before the game and
with his hand.
Yeah. Well, from what I heard, I didn't see it. The game he got hurt, I was listening to that on the radio, so I didn't see the image, but he definitely got beat up pretty bad. All right, so again, we got Tommy Orme here, Philadelphia Sports Network, trending in the AM. We got 13 likes on YouTube, 2 on Facebook. Make sure you hit that like button. Likes equal views. We're going to transition back to the Eagles here in a moment. We're going to wrap up here also in the next few minutes with Tommy. Tommy, do the Phillies make the playoffs? And what is the max this team is capable of doing?
I think they make the playoffs. I think getting past the Braves last year, and even to a certain extent the Cardinals, was a fluke. NL divisional round exit, unfortunately.
Okay. Yeah, I think
that's where I'm at.
At least with where the team stands now. Now these guys start turning around. Trey Turner starts being, Superman Trey Turner again, and JT starts to, things can change. Our opinions can change. They fluctuate. It's okay to be a flip-flopper, guys. It is okay. So real quick, I just, I want to get your thoughts really quickly before we wrap this up. Before I get you out of here, Eagles training camp's happening. I got to get the colors back to midnight green here. As we transition to football for the rest of the show here. What are your early thoughts on the Eagles? What you're seeing in training camp? Are you as excited as the rest of Philadelphia is for how this season is shaping up?
I'm still cautiously optimistic because
you're the first person to use that word right there.
It all seems too good to be true. The Eagles had the best draft. Jalen Hurts' background on his phone is him losing the Super Bowl. It's like all this stuff where it's like, whoa, like this is really going to happen. And I just want to relax. We're like Dak Prescott's throwing interceptions and Trayvon Diggs is getting in his face. It all seems a little too good to be true. So I'm going to sit back. I'm going to enjoy that the Eagles drafted as many Georgia defensive players as they did as a Georgia alum. And hopefully we go into the season. Yeah, there you go. With everyone has new Kelly Green jerseys.
Right. So I am not a Kelly Green guy. I can't stand the Kelly Green. I think it's so overrated. People complain about not being able to pay their mortgages, not having enough money to put gas in their car. They got food stamps for their food, yet they're lining up at 3:15 a.m. in the morning waiting to go buy $400 worth of Kelly Green stuff at first second that it goes on sale. Come on now. You could have just ordered it online. You didn't even have to wait in that line. You could have gone to DH Gate and gotten $27 Kelly Green Jalen Hurts jerseys 2 years ago if you want it. Kelly Green's a little overrated, Tommy. I'm sorry.
No, listen, I'm with like this feels like remember Randall Cunningham? Well, now we have Jalen Hurts. So we'll see how it goes. But those I think I saw the games they're playing with those Kelly Greens. One of them was Bills, right? And
the Bills and I forget. It's definitely not two divisional games. I know they're two non-divisional games. I forget. One's in October, one's in December, I believe.
Yeah. If they go 0-2 in those Kelly Greens, everyone's going to be like SOL.
Yeah. You are a betting guy. And we talked to Phillies and we're transitioned to Eagles. I got I don't know the odds. It's just kind of popped into my head 2 seconds ago. All right. I don't know what the odds are, but if you had to place a bet, one unit that the Phillies will get back and win the NL pennant and get to the World Series but lose again.
Okay.
Would you rather place that bet or the Eagles winning the Super Bowl, not getting to the Super Bowl, winning it? So Phillies losing in the World Series or Eagles winning the Super Bowl. Where's your confidence between the Phillies and the Eagles that you would want to place that bet?
It's still the Eagles winning the Super Bowl. Like this team is.
You just said cautiously optimistic, and George, I know.
I know.
Always. But see, the thing is, George, you're always cautiously optimistic about everything. You are everything in life. You are cautiously optimistic about. You never let yourself. You're even Steven. You never let yourself get too high, George, or too low.
Yeah, it's Eagles by a landslide. I'm telling you, if the Phillies make it through this Atlanta Braves team, not to mention even the Miami Marlins, like Dodgers, Padres, could it's too hard. The Eagles have an easier path in the NFC.
I was listening to the radio broadcast the other night when JT messed up his hand, and they were talking about the Padres, how the Padres are not out of it. I mean, just think about, we talk about our team underperforming offensively. Just thinking about the Padres, how they're underperforming offensively. All it takes is one little spark, and they're only 5 or 6 games out of the last wild card spot. They get hot. They could go on a run as well.
Right.
All right. So we got Tommy Orme here, Philadelphia Sports Network. What do you got? You got anything working in the pipeline, article-wise? Anything you want to promote right now?
Yeah, so we just finished our live, now done, NL East draft tracker. So if you guys have any questions about any of the transactions that occurred within our own division, that is all on psn.com. And the one shout I'll have, if you're betting on baseball, and if you put $1 on every single Philadelphia Philly to hit a home run for an entire week, you will end up in the green.
Really?
That's
$1 on every Philly, every game to hit a home run.
Yeah, because then all of a sudden Brandon Marsh hits a home run, and you're like, oh, well, there's $10.
Yeah, I like that. I think I remember you when you first posted that. That's kind of interesting. I haven't had the guts to do that. I have learned not to bet baseball. I am terrible at betting baseball, especially the same game parlays. They just sucker me in, and I just get beat every single time. So we don't do that. So Tommy Orme, make sure you guys shoot him a follow at _Orme3 on social media. And, of course, check out his work on Philadelphia Sports Network's website. Tommy, thanks for joining me this morning. I appreciate it.
Phil, thanks for having me. Go Phils. Go Birds.
That's right. All right, so we're back here. We are going to transition to the Eagles a little bit more. Let me get this back up here. But let's do a quick reset. Make sure you hit the like button on YouTube, 13 likes. We're on Facebook, too. Tell everybody, get in. Phillies conversation's done. We're done. And thank you, Tommy, for joining me. Talking Michael Lorenzen, Rodolfo, Castro. They're big trade deadline acquisitions. They don't even care about the Braves in Atlanta, Georgia. Maybe we should start caring about the Phils. Look, this is actually a pretty interesting conversation right here, Mista. And I remember back during like the Greg Maddux, John Smoltz, Chipper Jones Braves era. They only won one World Series in that era where they had that amazing starting rotation. Steve Avery. That when they got to the World Series that year, they couldn't even sell out their old stadium for World Series games. What was it called? Like Fulton County State. Was it Fulton County Stadium in Atlanta? I don't even remember. But whatever that old stadium was before they got their new one, they couldn't even sell that out in the World Series. Atlanta is such a bad sports city in general. The Falcons sell out games, but it's football. but they don't sell out every game every year. Like the Eagles, I don't even know when the last time the Eagles didn't have a sellout at the Link. The Falcons, it happens. Like the Atlanta Hawks, they can't fill that arena every single night. Like if I had to ever move somewhere, I would never move to Atlanta because it is one of the most dispassionate sports fan bases in cities. And I think it's because nobody's from Atlanta. Everybody moves to Atlanta for work or travel or whatever. Atlanta has so many people from all over moving to it. And I think it's crazy. And yes, thank you very much to Tommy Orme for joining us today. A great guest, great writer for Philadelphia Sports Network. Lots of great content there. But anyway, let's transition to the Eagles. And yes, George, again, one more time. Yes, I know. You always are cautiously optimistic. I'm just going to keep putting that up there. And yes, the Kelly Green stuff. I didn't get to it yesterday. But God, guys, standing out in line, Vince Quinn, John Barchard, Allie, Kelly, all those people, Fourth and John, Dave, all those people out there at 4 o'clock in the morning tailgating for a jersey release. Guys, it made my head hurt. Like, seriously, why are we doing this to ourselves, people? You could get those jerseys. Do you really need to be the first person? I saw a video online. Somebody canceled their MRI on their shoulder. You're in massive shoulder pain. Canceled the MRI to go get in line 3 hours early to get Kelly Green. The gates open and people are running. Could you imagine being like the 30th in line and they're out of Jalen Hurts jerseys already? Like, seriously, people? What is wrong with you? Try Charlotte. Charlotte, yeah, I mean, do they even have sports teams in Charlotte? I mean, I know there's the Hornets, but are they a real franchise? I don't know. Like, Charlotte would be pretty bad too. But Atlanta's isn't Atlanta a bigger city than Charlotte, Gary? Excuse me. Last time Eagles didn't sell out was the second game of the 99 season. Thank you for that, Kyle. I don't have to fact check you. I know you give me solid information right there. That's a long time. That's almost 24 years of selling out straight. And I remember that night. 99 was like, I went to the 99, I think it was the 99 season when I went to the Eagles-Patriots game. It was like one of their few wins that year. And I sat in the end zone of that game. They love the Georgia Bulldogs. That's different. That's not professional sports. That's college sports. But yes, the Georgia Bulldogs do dominate all of Georgia for sure. Without a shadow of doubt. Bills in Miami. They're the games that we're wearing the Kelly Green. That's right. Bills and Miami. So that is correct. Thank you very much for that. I pushed an old lady out of line to get the Kelly. Yeah, I'm sure you did. Like, I get it. I just don't get it at all. Philadelphia has been popping since 1700. I mean, the first capital of our beautiful country is in Philadelphia. So, yeah, Philadelphia's a great city. Charlotte started popping in 1960. I love it. All right. All the joking aside. So, another day of training camp yesterday. There's no practice, real quick. Practice tomorrow and Friday back-to-back. They practiced yesterday with pads for the first time. Lots of interesting notes here and there. We can get into them tomorrow. I will say I am following ESP, as everybody should be. I got the stats on Jalen Hurts. He was 15-17, 2 more touchdowns yesterday. Super effective. But I want to talk a little bit about something. I want to get your guys' opinion on something here. So Haason Reddick obviously was asked about his contract yesterday, and he signed a 3-year, approximately $15 million a year deal to come to Philly last offseason. And obviously 16 sacks, proved he's one of the best pass rushers in football. So he's making $15 million a year on a 3-year deal. And he was asked about it. I mean, you got the Watts, you got the Bosa's of the world, you got all these people out there, Myles Garrett's of the world, that rush the passer. And they're making $20, $25, $26 million a year. And here's Haason Reddick making $15 million a year. Our offense is going to go nuts. And we are going to continue talking offense today, tomorrow. I got Mr. Crockpot, Mr. Deeves from Edge of Philly joining me. We'll talk the youth of the team. Quez Watkins, I got comments on him here for today or tomorrow. But this Haason Reddick thing, and he was asked about it. And he handled it so well. He didn't go, I'm going to hold out. He didn't make a big deal about it. He's like, it is what it is. I know, you see it, whatever. And there are a lot of Eagles fans in Charlotte. That's interesting. I did not know that. I heard Hurts tied his shoelaces yesterday. No. Hurts is him. He doesn't have to. He just has to look at his shoelaces and shake his foot, and they magically tie themselves. Okay, just shake his foot, and they just tie. It's like magic. Actually, I think that was a skit on that. What was that comedian guy, or not comedian? That magician guy on True TV. He used to come on after Impractical Jokers. He used to shake his foot, and it would magically tie. That's what Jalen Hurts does. I don't know about walking on water. That maybe this year he'll walk on water, but he can magically tie his shoelaces by just looking at him. But this is Haason Reddick situation. He's obviously severely underpaid based off his production. He's obviously going into year 2 of a 3-year deal. He's obviously better production-wise than his pay equals. Yet there's a phrase I love, Eagles culture, and the culture of a team. This Eagles culture, you come to Philadelphia, you've got to buy into what Nick Sirianni, what Howie Roseman, what Jeffrey Lurie is putting out. And Haason Reddick knows he needs to get paid. Haason Reddick knows he's going to get paid again, whether it's in Philadelphia or elsewhere. He is not making a big deal about it because he buys into the Eagles culture that we are a team, we are trying to win a Super Bowl. We see what the goal is. The money will work itself out. Let's not make a TO big stink about our contract. Let's not make a holdout be bigger than the rest of what's going on with this team. And I think there's something special there with that. Like Haason Reddick could very well, entering the second year of his 3-year deal, be holding out for more money right now. But he's not. Why? Because he knows it's going to work itself out. I mean, Nolan Smith is insurance, So here's the thing. I mean, Haason Reddick knows. Nolan Smith was drafted at 30 because he was a top 10 prospect and he was there at 30. Nolan Smith was drafted at 30, though, also because if Reddick has to walk with this contract situation, you've got Nolan Smith ready to slide right in. That's Howie Roseman seeing the now and the future. Haason Reddick next year will not play out the last year of his contract here in Philadelphia. He will either in the offseason or the middle of this season, whatever it is to get a restructure, an extension, a raise, or Howie Roseman will find a way to trade him. Because that's what Howie Roseman does. Howie Roseman knows it's a business. Howie Roseman knows how to look to the future and the now. Like, he understands what's going on. And I think it goes to this culture. The team is bigger than any one given player. That's why I hate our media. Why do they ask these questions to create drama when we are trying to win a championship? Wouldn't you get more content the further we go? I mean, I get this. And look, I ask tough questions sometimes. I got this same point made at me 100 times earlier this offseason on Twitter. I don't even remember what part of the offseason it was. I put out a tweet that Devontae Smith is greater than A.J. Brown, and you're all going to realize it by the end of this season. And everybody kept saying, why are you trying to create drama? It's not a competition on who's better. It was just me saying I think one player is better than the other. But this team doesn't seem to let this drama that's created by outside noise affect the team. And I think this Haason Reddick thing is really, really key to proving what Eagles culture is about. And back to this again, Nolan Smith. Haason Reddick sees Nolan Smith there. Haason Reddick sees a younger, faster version of him, a guy with more potential than him. Haason Reddick sees this guy's the guy trying to take my job. Haason Reddick sees Howie Roseman just drafted a guy to take my job. And you know what he's doing? Nothing. Why? Because he knows the team is bigger than one individual player. I heard Reddick was joking around with Howie last week. No frostiness. There is no drama. I know there's no drama, and that's not the point. The point is that there is no drama. And I think it's something very special that there is no drama with this team. That every player on this team knows that the team is bigger than them individually. We always talk about drama. That's the writing on the wall, brother. Which one is the writing on the wall? The drafting of Nolan Smith. Dude, I'm always going to be me. I'm never going to change who I am. Never. Fans love drama. The media knows that. And the media is going to drive the drama for that. I get that. And I'm not questioning, Eric's questioning the media for doing it. I'm not. Now, I question some of the clickbait headlines and stuff like that. But when you're asking tough questions, we criticize our media members when they don't ask hard questions, when they ask the softball questions. Then we also criticize them when they make the hard questions. I don't dislike the question. Maybe the timing of the question, but not the question. But I love the response. And I love the attitude. Baseball is boring. Dude, I'm a baseball guy, man, at heart. K1, you might get yourself put in 30-second timeout for that. I mean, my first tattoo was a Phillies tattoo. I love baseball. I wanted nothing more in life than to play third base for the Philadelphia Phillies when I was a kid. I mean, I wanted to take over from Mike Schmidt. That was my dream. I just stunk at baseball. I stunk at all sports, basically. Drama is content. Click, paper sit. Well, I don't think anybody buys papers anymore, man, chatter. At least not in Philadelphia. It's all online and all subscription. I used to read one site all the time. I'm not going to say their name because I don't want to call him out or anything. He's on this show sometimes. But now you got to pay for his content on his on the website he writes for. Like, I don't pay for it. Like, I don't. It is what it is. K1 says the quit part out loud. Yeah, exactly. Haason Reddick is turning 29 in September. This is his last shot at a mega contract. Yet he's not making a big deal about it. And I love that. And I think that is so important with this team. And you could go to Quez Watkins. Quez Watkins spoke yesterday about how he's feeling the confidence. He thinks he's an elite wide receiver, but he's got to prove it. Do we realize Quez Watkins is entering the last year of his deal? He is a free agent after this year. He doesn't have any extension. Instead of complaining that he doesn't have any job security after this year, you know what he's doing? He's going out there and turning in a great camp, working his tail off every single day at the NovaCare complex. I have no filter. That's what you have friends, K1. You got the Trending in the AM morning show community. That's why we want to build K1. If we make this community bigger, you'll have more friends. I think Hurt's shoelaces are a bigger issue than Reddick. You think it's a bigger issue that he can self-tie his shoelaces by just looking at them? Oh, that's interesting. There are pocket-sized Haason is a local guy. He wanted to play for Philly since he was here. Yeah, absolutely, Gary. He wanted to be in Philly. But he also, I mean, you can't knock it or not take into account that, like somebody said before there, he's going to be 29. Every player wants to get that last big contract when they can. And if he was a free agent entering this offseason, not last offseason, like if the Eagles had him just for 1 year and then he had that 16-sack season, he would have gotten $25 million a year this offseason. He would have. He would have gotten if Javon Hargrave got 4 years, $90 million, Javon Hargrave or Haason Reddick would have gotten 4 years, $100 million. I mean, that's quarterback sacks, and getting after the quarterback is highly valued in the NFL. He would have gotten paid. But he's not making us think about it because the culture that has been set here by Nick Sirianni, Howie Roseman, Jeffrey Lurie, that the team is more important. You can put Jalen Hurts into that, setting the culture. Jalen Hurts has set the culture massively here. The way he leads by example, the way he can walk on water and tie his shoelaces just by shaking his foot. That sets the culture that everybody is equal. This team is more important than any one person. Haason Reddick does want to ring. He's not getting it anywhere else. That's right, because we are winning the Super Bowl this year. Yeah, I'm just going to say we are, you know. It is. But he could still throw a stink up about it. He could be like, yo, pay me more. I'm not going to practice at camp. Pay me more. Phil, you don't get me drama. Then you're messing with my paper. Yeah, no. Haason will be taken care of. He may be taking care of Tyrone. But he also may be told, unfortunately, you got to go. We got Nolan Smith here. Remember, Devontae Smith is going to need a huge contract this offseason, upcoming offseason. Landon Dickerson is going to be due for a big pay raise. Haason Reddick, you know, Then the next year you're going to have Jordan Davis and Milton. There's a lot of guys that are going to need to get paid on this team. There's always going to be an odd man out. Hell, A.J. Brown is entering year 2 of his 4-year contract. He signed for what, like 4 years, $100 million? I think that was approximately his extension when we traded for him. I mean, there's a lot of guys that are going to get paid. And there's going to be a lot of guys that we have to move on from. And Howie Roseman's smart enough to know, look, the team's more important than these connections that we've made. Now, we're going to try to keep as many of the guys we can, but we're always going to be bringing in more guys. So if one guy has to go away, the next guy's ready to step up. And that's where the Nolan Smith thing's coming into play. We can live through anything, even if we are obnoxious fans. As Tommy said, we're tough fans, but we're honest fans. We're honest, and we love our teams. The culture is bigger than any one player. And that has been set forth, like I've said 100 times, by Jalen Hurts, Nick Sirianni, Howie Roseman, everybody. You don't see the holdouts. You don't see the problems that you see in other cities, the drama. Just think of all the drama around the NFL right now. When was we haven't had drama here since Carson Wentz left in 2020. Like, that was it. We've gone 3 years. Quez is very mid. But Quez is playing with confidence or practicing with confidence. Quez sees the bigger goal. I got no tomorrow. This year is it. I got to prove that there's got to be a tomorrow for me. I got to clean up my mistakes. I got to close the loop. You're always welcome here, K1. Always. Von Miller, like 59, he's still the best. And Von Miller's like 59 with 17 reconstructed knees, and he's still out there making big money. Goes to show that teams will pay for those edge rushers, those guys that get after the quarterback. Allen needs to stop getting punked in them playoffs. Well, that's another whole subject right there. How he takes care of the trenches. I mean, he paid Vinny Curry and Derek Barnett. Yeah. You know I love the trenches here. Guys, we still only got 14 likes on YouTube. We're up to 4. Facebook likes are growing faster than the YouTube likes. Make sure you're pounding that like button, sharing this show out to everybody as we get to the last 10 to 15 minutes of the show today. Howie takes care of what he values the most, but he also takes care of players, but he knows when to say it's time to go. Marcus Epps signed a decent contract for the Raiders. He's an example of an undrafted free agent working hard and sticking in the NFL. But there's another example where you got Reed Blankenship, you got Sidney Brown, and Howie let Marcus Epps was a key part of the Super Bowl run last year. There is no, I was not high. George will vouch for me. George has been watching my shows since I started 3 years ago, 2 years ago with Trending in the AM. He knows. I was not high on Marcus Epps last year. I wanted them to go out and get, now I can't even think of his name, the kid from Cincinnati last year that was on the trade market. Now he's with somebody else now. I wanted them to make a trade. I was saying trade a second or third round pick and Andre Dillard for that safety. So I wasn't confident in Marcus Epps. But he was a key guy. But it was time to let him go. Because everybody can't get paid. Somebody's got to go. That's why they let Miles Sanders go. Not just because they don't value the running back. Because sometimes you got to make the hard decisions. And the team is bigger than any one player. We've got AJ through 2026. So, okay. I thought we had him through 2025. But so maybe his time for an extension or to walk is a year further away than I thought. Know who else also looked great in camp? Not Brown. Yeah. And Paul Turner and Tyree Jackson's looking good in camp this year. At some point there will be drama. It's cyclical. There doesn't have to be drama. I know we've talked about this a lot, George, that there is divas on this team and there is a chance of drama at some point. When the going gets tough, you see. But you got to also believe and have hope and understanding that the culture that is being, Eagles culture that is being brewed here is bigger than the players. And that it seems like at this time, and we say everything's going well, but we lost in the Super Bowl. So there's an opportunity. It's not like we won the Super Bowl. We lost in the Super Bowl. This team, Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni, will keep that locker room together. Howie Roseman will do the right things at the right time. Looking at Zach Martin, he may just retire. He's talked about it last year. Haason understands where he plays. Yeah, I mean, do you really think Howie Roseman will let a Zach Martin situation unfold the way it did? No. He would have either traded him or given him the extension. He wouldn't let this be lingering anymore. He's learned from the mistakes of the past. He knows trench warfare, a phrase I coined. No. I've been saying trench warfare for 3 years on podcasts, man. It is mine. Trenches in the AM. We might call this trenches in the AM at some point. We'll do a whole show just on the offensive line. I'll see if I can get an offensive lineman or a former offensive lineman. Anybody knows any. Jeremy Bridges is in Arizona now, so I can't get him on. Trey Thomas won't answer my messages anymore, even though he's been on the show before. So, got to get an offensive lineman on the show to talk trench warfare. We need a jingle for that. Yeah, maybe. We have players that have brought into the team culture. A.J. Brown, who came in with some minor baggage, and he's saying everyone knows what the goals around here. Exactly. Like, we worry about A.J. Brown, and he's one of those divas I worry about. But he's listening. He's buying in. It seems that. And yes, that could change. It can. When the going gets tough and we lose 3 games in a row, which I don't think we do, that can change. But we'll see that when that happens. Any Charleston Rambo news out of Eagle? What? I don't even know what that means. Yeah, you wanted. Oh, yeah, Jesse Bates. That was the guy. I was the one who wanted Epps. In fact, I said Epps was worth making the 53 in 2021. I may have. I did not buy Marcus Epps. I did not. I was wrong. And I look, you know me. I always admit I was wrong. And Jesse Bates is still a very good safety. And he's still actually maybe better than Marcus Epps. But I didn't think we were going to get the Marcus Epps season that we got out of him. I didn't. I really didn't think so. AJ, Howard, Cameron Brate, Mercedes. Yeah, well, OJ Howard. Yeah. We've got like 75 tight ends now. They all are all mid. But, yeah, we're not making any moves for any more tight ends. And Bates was not the difference in us winning the Super Bowl or not. Yeah, I'm not going to say you're right because I don't want your, I don't want to tell you you're right, but you're right. Yeah. Look, and Marcus Epps played really well. Like, I'm not going to doubt the Marcus Epps, but this is a key that Howie knows what's best for the team. He let Marcus Epps, a key factor in us getting to the Super Bowl, walk. 2 key factors walk. 3. I mean, well, 4 or 5. There are a lot of. But AJ, you let Hargrave walk because of the contract. You let Epps walk. You let Miles Sanders walk. You let Andre Dillard walk. You let a lot of guys walk because you can't sign everybody. And that's where the Haason Reddick knows he's going to get paid. It's either going to be in Philly or somewhere else. He knows he will get paid. Let's try to win a Super Bowl this year and let the other stuff take care of itself because it'll take care of it, whether it's here or elsewhere. This Eagles culture, I think, is a bigger deal. You are always joking. I don't know if you've ever been serious, Matt Chatter. A.J. Brown is only 1 year older than Devontae Smith. I know. Isn't that crazy? Like, we kind of think that A.J. Brown's like I kind of feel like he's a veteran that's been around forever. He has been. He's got, 4 or 5 years in the league now. But, man, he's not that old yet. Always admit when you're wrong. Put Mrs. Phil on for a minute. She might watch sometimes. She never claims to watch, but she knows when I mention her or bring her up on the show. Marcus Epps got paid more than CJ. Yeah, Marcus Epps got paid more than the guy that led the NFL interceptions last year, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Just let that sink in. And there's more Eagles culture. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson tried to make himself bigger than the team. And look where he is now. He's up there languishing away in Detroit, where players' careers go to die. I'm just kidding with that. Detroit's going to be a good team this year. A.J. Brown has old man knees. Does he have old man knees? Maybe. I don't know. I'm not sure about that. He's been relatively healthy and last year. And yeah, but the team, like, I'm going back to this. Like, the Haason Reddick situation versus the Chauncey. Like, there's a reason why the Saints got rid of Chauncey Gardner-Johnson for so cheap. We thought Howie Roseman stole from the Saints, getting Chauncey for a 4th round pick or whatever it was. Well, obviously, they wanted to get rid of his attitude issue. Howie Roseman sees that. This team, at this moment, is buying into every little detail about the culture. And I think it's very important that we realize that nobody is more important than any other player on this team. Remember when Chip Kelly drafted Jordan Poyer in the 6th round? Yeah. It's still one of those ones I can't believe that got away. Jordan Poyer's had a really good career. Did Jordan Poyer get hurt last year? I don't know. But, man, he ended up with a really solid career. There's always those guys that you draft late that end up, years later coming out and playing well. That's the Raiders where the Raiders are a problem. Yeah, Cooper Kupp is hurt. Again, hamstring issue, I believe it was, man, Chatter. I really had high hopes for the Rams this year, having a turnaround. And it seems like it's not serious from what I heard, that Cooper should be back by scrimmage times in a couple of weeks in preseason games. Not that he'll play in the preseason games. So I'm not worried about that just yet, but something to monitor before you get to your fantasy football drafts and stuff. Excuse me. Epps will not have a good season. I mean, the Raiders are the Raiders. They're not a great team. They're not a well-run organization. I mean, I was wrong there. I'll admit it. I said the Raiders were going to be be a Super Bowl team last year. I bought into the Devontae Adams and Derek Carr combo. Now Devontae Adams wants to go to the Jets too. Everyone wants to follow Aaron Rodgers everywhere he goes. Yet Aaron Rodgers only wins one Super Bowl. I remember Jordan Poyer, star safety Micah Hyde got hurt. That's right, Micah Hyde too. No, we didn't. When Howie traded Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, we were like, oh, okay, good move. No one saw that. Yeah, there was also, he was transitioning from a cornerback to a safety role. And I remember saying it on this show, like, we're putting a lot of faith in a guy that's only had a handful of snaps at safety. But as the season went on, we started saying, look at this, Howie Roseman knows more than we do. But maybe not. When will they go to 18 games? At some point. They will. They're going to have a lot to do to make that happen, K1. I really believe at some point in the next 3 to 5 to 10 years, there will be 18 games. But the players, when's the next CPA, the next player agreement up? The owners are going to try to fight for it. I think if they're going to go to 18 games, they will have to find a way to get a second bye week into the season. I really do think that that'll be it. And they'll probably want to cut it down to 2 preseason games as well. Which is so there's going to be some counters to that. But what I do, and I forget who it was, said it before on this show, and I agree with it. I've heard other people say it on social media before. You add that 18th game, it stretches the Super Bowl out to President's Weekend, and then everybody gets the day after the Super Bowl off, which I think would be fantastic, except for those of us that are in restaurant business and have to work every day. Jets stink. They do stink. I'm not buying the Jets, not at all. Super Bowl win last year and lose a few more players and possibly Howie or you get everyone. I'm sorry. Super Bowl win last year and lose a few more players and possibly Howie or you get someone. I don't understand that. I might be missing something there, Eric. Epps was an okay starter last year and worth every penny. Better value than what if we would have gotten. Yeah, I mean, and that's hindsight 2020. That's why I'll say I was wrong, George. At the time, I was dead set that I was right in that one. But hindsight, for sure, you were right on that one. Extra bye, prob, expanded rosters for 18 games, more football. Yeah, and it equals more money. A great bridge safety, for sure. Absolutely. Because now but we got another bridge. I mean, we're all high on Reed Blankenship, or a lot of people are, but we don't truly know what we got there. Terrell Edmonds is going to be a placeholder to see what we got in Sidney Brown. Kayvon Wallace, from all reports are saying he's having an excellent camp. That's something different. He's another guy coming up on a new deal. Huge season for him. And he's having a great camp. Kyle, you were the one that said it. A lot of people said it, but you were the one that said it on the show. And I think it's a great idea. I think my business would flourish more if there was a day off. More people would have parties. More pizza would be ordered. More wings would be ordered. If they were all knew they were going to be off the next day. Vegas is a party town. Not a great place for football players to focus. An easy place to go place bets, too. I don't get the Vegas. I mean, they got a hockey team, a football team. At some point, I guarantee they have a basketball and a baseball team. There will be a time when Vegas has all 4 major sports teams there. 3 bye weeks, 1 universal, every team. I brought this up on a show a few weeks ago, Mad Chatter. I love the idea of a universal bye, that everybody gets a bye week at the same time. I really do. XFL and USFL are not long enough to get us through the dead zone. Yeah, that's why you get me talking baseball on this show sometimes, Mad Chatter, because of the dead zone. and we have done our best to avoid talking basketball as much as possible lately. You made fun of me for saying Blankenship was going to make. Yeah, I mean, I'm still not. I need to see till October on Reed Blankenship. Re-ask me on Reed Blankenship in October, and I'll re-ask you on somebody else. Basically, would you rather won the Super Bowl last year and possibly lose Howie, or would you prefer the team we have now and going forward? But I don't understand why you think we would lose Howie if we won a Super Bowl. Howie is never leaving the city unless he, is done being the GM. Unless he wants to buy. I can see Howie Roseman want buy a team at some point. But I don't see why Howie would lose. And I always will say, Eric, if you're going to guarantee me a Super Bowl any season, any year, anytime, I'm taking the championship because you never know what next year is going to bring. You never do. So give me the Super Bowl, and then we'll deal with it. I'm all for selling my soul to the devil all the time for a championship in any sport. I want the titles because you never know when the next is going to happen. I'm having a great camp in chat, but my performance drops off in regular season. Okay, so we can expect some weak comments from you once the regular season starts. And just imagine, this chat, once games start playing every single day outside of my week in Mexico, every day. Monday, reacting to the games. Friday, previewing the games. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, what we got to do. Plus, then you mix in Sixers talk. We might, by the regular season, if we can get this show to a certain level of viewership, we might have to go 2 hours every day. We might. You let running backs and linebackers walk, easily replaced. They drafted the one. They value defensive tackle, for sure. Although I will say, those linebackers, there are some very mid reports coming out about Morrow and Ellis and the linebacker core. We might have a problem there. You see a pattern forming. I see a pattern forming. I see everything. Now, what I see and go here doesn't always work with my mouth. My mouth is going a mile a minute. My brain's going a half a mile. So I process it up here a lot better than I say it here. You know it though. You know when Phil leaves the club and all the ladies flee. That's baseball. Yeah. When I walk in, I don't walk into a club ever. I don't think I've ever walked into a club in my life. At least not after 10 p.m. No, Howie means sustained success. He is pretty much irreplaceable. He is. And I really think that Howie Roseman's the type of guy. How the hell? It's 9:32, guys. We just hit overtime and no $500 super chat. And I got to get to work. But yeah, Howie Roseman's not leaving this team or city ever. Unless he wants to go start something else. Start a football team, own a football team, or just, do something else not in football. That's the only way Howie leaves this city. There's no way he's leaving. I got to wrap this up, guys. No extra innings today. There's 20 to 25 pizzas, party pizzas that me made. The wife's there starting them right now. I got to get in to do that. But we'll be back tomorrow. Deebs, Edge of Philly Sports will be joining me. We're going to continue talking Eagles tomorrow with him. He knows his prospects. So he does a lot of detailed breakdowns of these guys before drafts. And we're going to talk about Nolan Smith. We're going to talk about Sidney Brown. We're going to talk about Killing Ringo. We're going to talk about the youth on this team tomorrow. And we're going to continue this Eagles culture and Howie Roseman culture tomorrow. But we're going to wrap it up right there for the day. Trending in the AM on Philadelphia Sports Network. We only got 15 likes on YouTube, 4 on Facebook. Guys, got to do better. Tell everybody. Come into the chat every day, 8:15 a.m. Not 8:30 like Talking 215 said. It's 8:15 every day. Back tomorrow. Another great Eagles conversation. We'll try not to talk too much Phillies, if any. We'll see what else comes up today. Everybody have a great Wednesday. I will see you tomorrow morning, guys. I am Phil Stiefel for Philadelphia Sports Network. Have a great day, guys. And go Birds!